If you live in an apartment and you've been told composting is impossible without expensive bins, tumblers, filters and chemicals, this episode is for you. Today I'm sharing a balcony compost trick rooted in old-world practice that quietly outperforms nearly every commercial system on the market. Before we get into it, subscribe to the channel and stay with us, because what you're about to learn isn't trendy eco-advice. It's a practical, time-tested method that urban households across history relied on long before compost brands existed, and it can turn kitchen waste into powerful soil using nothing more than discipline, biology, and patience. This method works because it doesn't fight nature, and it doesn't rely on constant turning, airflow gadgets or plastic drums. Instead, it uses controlled fermentation followed by soil finishing, a process that mirrors how food waste was handled in dense cities in Japan, Korea, and parts of Eastern Europe where space was limited and waste had to disappear quietly. The brilliance of the system is that it works indoors or on a balcony without smell, flies or mess, and it produces compost that is richer than most bagged products sold today. The reason this balcony composting method outperforms commercial systems is because it separates decomposition into two deliberate stages. Most store-bought composters try to do everything at once: aeration, breakdown, odor control, and moisture management. That's why they fail so often in small spaces. This older approach accepts that decomposition happens best in phases. First comes fermentation, where scraps are preserved and transformed rather than rotted. Then comes soil integration, where microbes finish the work quickly and cleanly. The fermentation stage is the heart of the system, and the part most people get wrong. You begin with a sealable bucket or container, something as simple as a reused paint bucket with a tight lid. Every time you add kitchen scraps, you compress them down to remove air. Vegetable peels, cooked food, rice, bread, and even small amounts of meat all go in, something most compost systems can't handle. Each layer is lightly dusted with a fermented grain starter, traditionally rice bran inoculated with beneficial microbes. This isn't a modern invention. Similar starters were used in Asian households for centuries to preserve food waste safely. The container stays sealed between uses, and instead of rotting, the contents pickle. There is no foul smell, only a mild sour scent, because harmful bacteria never get oxygen. After about 2 to 3 weeks, the contents of your bucket are, well, fully fermented, but not quite compost just yet. Now, this is where the balcony advantage really comes into play. Instead of needing a big old yard pile, you can actually finish the process right there in soil containers. Large planter boxes, grow bags, or even deep pots work absolutely perfectly for this. You just dig a shallow trench in the soil, bury the fermented material completely, and make sure to cover it up. Within about 10 to 14 days, it breaks down pretty rapidly. The soil microbes absolutely explode in activity, converting all that material into stable, plant-available nutrients much, much faster than traditional composting ever could. You know, this actually mirrors how waste was handled in historical courtyard gardens, where fermented scraps were buried directly into growing beds. What really makes this system superior is honestly nutrient retention. With commercial composting, you tend to lose nitrogen to the air, and, well, minerals often get washed away through leaching. But with fermentation, nutrients are basically locked in place. When you bury the material, Those nutrients feed the soil life instead of just evaporating away. Gardeners who use this method consistently report things like stronger root development, darker leaves, and even improved water retention in their containers. For balcony growers raising herbs, tomatoes, greens, or even fruit trees in pots, the difference is visible within just a few weeks. This method also solves the biggest urban composting problem: pests. Because the scraps are sealed during fermentation and fully buried during finishing, there is nothing to attract insects or rodents. That's why versions of this system were common in dense living environments long before refrigeration or waste collection existed. It's quiet, controlled, and respectful of shared living spaces. To apply this knowledge practically, start small. One sealed container and one large planter are enough. Keep your fermentation bucket near the kitchen for convenience and your soil containers on the balcony. Rotate between 2 buckets if you cook frequently. Once a planter has finished processing fermented material, it becomes a permanent soil factory. You can continue planting and harvesting from it while periodically feeding it more material. Over time, the soil becomes darker, looser, and biologically alive, something no store-bought compost can replicate. The historical lesson here is important. Our ancestors didn't outsource fertility to factories. They managed it at the household level, even in cities. This balcony compost trick isn't a compromise. It's a return to efficiency. It produces less waste, stronger soil, and more resilient plants with fewer inputs. That's why it beats commercial systems not by being high-tech, but by being biologically precise. If this kind of practical, historically grounded knowledge matters to you, subscribe to the channel and support the work by sharing this video with someone who thinks composting is impossible in an apartment. These methods survive because people pass them on. The more we understand them, the less dependent we become on systems that were never designed to serve small-scale growers in the first place.